Alright, so we're looking at assignment 1 for week 2 here. And the first one that I want to look at is the uh, traditional color wheel. And we're going to start with red up top because, well, that's one of the primary colors, right? Red, yellow, and blue. And so yellow is defined as hue 60, and blue is defined as hue 240. So we're going to start pretty straightforward with those three there. This is pretty much going to be the last time we look at these three colors as being the primaries, though. So, it's a nice transition away from them, but red, yellow, and blue are the traditional primaries. From there, we can start to come up with our secondary colors. Now, red and yellow are 60 apart from one another, and halfway in between that would be 30, and it kind of works conveniently that 30 is also orange. And then we know that blue and yellow make green, and hue 120 is green. Okay, and here violet, this is a little bit confusing because it doesn't work quite the same way that you might think, but this is a hue that is sort of the average of these two. Traditional purple tends to be more blue, but we want this to be halfway between the two parent colors. So halfway between red and blue is going to be this more magenta color here. Okay, so from that point we can start coming up with our tertiary colors. We're back over here, 0 and 30, and halfway between those is 15. And then here we've got 30 and 60. Halfway between that's 45. It doesn't work everywhere, but it is kind of nice to get as close. Here we're at 60 and 120. So 90 is our halfway point. And then here we're at 240 and 120. So 180 is our halfway point. And then here we're, let's see, 300 and 240, so 270. And then finally 330 is halfway between red and this magenta here. Now that looks fine. Those are good looking colors there, except when I put that into the grayscale mode, you'll see something's wrong. If we've got a really dark color like this and a really light color like this, we should end up with a middle gray like this. Probably should be a little darker. Like this is actually very similar in value to this light color, so we need to put it a lot closer to this one here. Now this color here is the real issue. That 180 there, if you look at it, there's no way a really dark color like this and a sort of light intermediate color like this, when mixed together, would create a lighter color, right? So something's wrong. And then same with here. This one jumps out, right? It's way too light to be in there. Now these all look pretty good around here, so let's take a look. First thing I want to do is this green here. Typically, if we put that green right around 50, it's going to look like kind of a traditional green. This one here probably can stay pretty light, but we want to darken it just a little bit so that it is more of a blend of these two parent colors. So I put it at about 80 usually. Let's put it right at 80. Now this one here, because it's so close to that blue, we end up having to put it right about 40. But if you look at that, that feels pretty good, right? Maybe even a little bit. Maybe we need to go up to 60 on this one. Something like that, maybe? And then over here, this one we determined needed to be quite a bit darker. So let's try 60. And I'm just eyeballing it. These are not firm numbers. They're sort of just me eyeballing it to make it look good. And then here, let's maybe take that down to 85 or so. So now if I take this one here and I put that into grayscale, wrong menu as always, you can look at it here and you can see it does, like, this one is darker or is lighter than this one. This one is lighter than this one. And then they get, come around here. Now this one is darker than this one, so that's an issue. Let's get that fixed. Probably have to move that down a little bit. That down a little bit there. No, bet we're pretty close there. Oh, really? Okay. Let's look at that in grayscale, see how that looks. All right, that's looking pretty good, right? Alright, so once that first one's done, which is always the hardest of the three, we can start looking at our additive and subtractive color wheels. The additive is actually the one that we're going to be using for the entire class. So it's good to be familiar with it. We'll zoom in and start with that one there. So we've got 12 colors that we need to put in here, and a circle has 360 degrees. The H slider is set up on degrees, so it's pretty easy to figure that we need 30 degrees between each color, because 360 divided by 12 is 30. So if we start with 0 at the top, which is where you want it to be, all we have to do is add 30 each time. So 30, 60, right? 90, and 120, and that's where I will stop. Really simple. Just make sure that you're adding 30 to the H slider, not the S and B slider. So 30 to the H slider each time, and then keep the S and B sliders at 100. When it's done, you'll have exactly what you need on there. It's pretty straightforward. Like, as long as you're just doing it with the H slider, you're good. Now the subtractive wheel is actually very similar to the additive wheel. Red goes on the bottom, and then you'd use these exact same colors here going around here. But really, it's easiest to just start with cyan up top, and cyan is hue 180, 210, 240, 270, 300, right? 330, not particularly exciting. And then if you notice, we add 330 and add 30 to that, we end up with 0, which is 360. So that checks out pretty nicely. So pretty much what I've got here is all the color, most of the colors that you'll need, just not having them completely filled out. Final step to these is the middle here. You want to put black in the middle, because the subtractive primaries, when they add together, they subtract out all light and give you black. And then this one you just leave white, because when they add all of the primary colors, red, green, and blue together, you end up with white. And then you can put a black in the middle of your traditional wheel too, if you'd like. So anyway, hopefully that gets you going. If you have any questions, though, please, as always, let me know.